All right, good morning. I know it's early. I doubt I'll wrap anybody watching at the moment. I will just do this very early review of Lucy Brown putting the boot in on a latest interview with Times Radio. Content is from Times Radio. The links in the description. Fair use policy. And this go and start this right away. So let's see what she has to say.
Next guest is a fashion photographer whose work has featured in British Vogue, in Rolling Stone, NME, to name but a few. But in 2017, she worked for Tommy Robinson, the founder of the English Defence League. And Lucy Brown joins us this evening. Lucy, welcome to Times Radio.
Hi. Weird intro, but yeah, hi.
Well, it's kind of quite a kind of surprise to hear about the work that you did.
I'd like to say, when I do this, please look at her body language. Her body language says it all. And she looks very uncomfortable in this interview. When I say that, it's when she's speaking and she's telling the lies. You can tell she is lying about a few things. Have a listen.
Given the work you now do, just take us back to the beginning. How did you come to start working for Tommy Robinson?
Well, obviously, I'm from Cambridge. I'm from a very liberal background. I didn't fit the mold at all. But in 2017, there was, if you remember, terror attack after terror attack after terror attack. There was quite a lot of terror attacks going on around Europe. And the overarching kind of theme was that we are not allowed to talk about certain issues. And I was struggling, and I used to work for a post-production company in East London that was, again, like sort of very liberal, very tolerant people who I noticed were saying things about Donald Trump, that he should be assassinated and, that kind of thing. And if I said anything about, I don't know, immigration, or I actually joined Black Lives Matter initially, and I found that there was some kind of racism in that side of things too, but people didn't want to hear about that. And just over time, I just felt very frustrated, and I ended up meeting a couple of guys called George and Kaylin, who were around the same age as me, and they were working.
So you can tell by her face, her body language, where she's feeling uncomfortable doing this, and you can tell the guilty face already on her. Now she's gone round all different organisations through the alt-right, Black Lives Matter, the rest. And it's just strange where she turned up the other day with the Danny Tomo thing. And all of a sudden now she has done this interview. I mean, the woman hasn't got no shame. And why do people do this? Why do they want to bring misery on other people?
Working with kind of media, they were making their own sort of gotcha interviews where they would go to like the feminist march. They would ask them, what do you think about this? What is it about Trump you don't like? And they wouldn't answer the questions very well. And it was just, if you remember that period of YouTube, they used to call it SJW owned, kind of. That was the kind of trend at the time. I met these guys. They were interviewing Tommy Robinson as part of their YouTube channel. We met in a pub one day, one fated day in Chelsea. And at that time, we all seemed to be of the opinion that we were not being told necessarily all the facts about these terror attacks. That is how it felt. I'm not sure if it was true, but that's how it felt at the time. Obviously, I look back and there's a lot of things I'm ashamed of for that period of time. But it was the terror attacks that made me happen in a way. And
which you got paid very well for. I think you got paid for the services really well. All of a sudden, you're going against about the terror attacks now. If you were not so into it, why don't you just act like a camera person and not be so involved? I just don't get it.
I would say it was also far left extremism that we were seeing in places like Berkeley, and riots across the states, you know, Trump supporters having rocks thrown at their heads on Inauguration Day. So there was a lot of things looking back that contributed to my strange timeline.
A strange timeline, as you describe it. You also, just a moment ago, described yourself as a liberal, a progressive, a Black Lives Matter supporter at one point. So how does someone with all of those credentials end up?
No, you're just a little rat who betrays people and jump on bandwagons to get your foot in, and then discredit people and then change their narrative to suit you.
Meeting and working with Tommy Robinson, what was he like when you first met him?
Not what I thought he would be, honestly. He had black friends. He was very chatty to, there'd be Muslims coming up talking to him in the street. He would chat to them. It was mainly white liberals that would shout at him, and it was mainly people with brown skin that would engage with him, and he would engage with them in quite a respectful way. And it was something that I suppose I didn't expect from him. And then the way that he, you know, I read his book.
Okay, you're telling the truth there. What a surprise. Listen, guys, listen where she puts the boot in. And look at the body language of her face. The body language. Lying little rat, which she starts talking.
And then I watched the Oxford Speech Union thing that you did. And then there was a lot of videos online that were kind of Tommy Robinson owns journalists. I don't know if you remember those kind of things, but they gave the impression of a kind of David and Goliath character that's been lied about, that's secretly been trying to, you know, help Britain, but the establishment wants to silence him and all this kind of thing. And, you know, there's some truth to that, but some of it is a myth. And I think that myth is very prevalent among his supporters today. I think there's a reason why people really do see him as some kind of, like a hero, unfortunately.
What was your role whilst working with Tommy Robinson? What were you employed to do?
Well, I'd do things like I'd do camera work, we would do script writing, we were having people messaging us from all over the country, telling us about these horrible crimes that were being committed. It was our job to kind of filter through and see where we could be of assistance. So we would go.
So you're trying to discredit him, but you have just admitted people sending messages and talking about their experience of horrible crime. I remember hearing Vinnie Sullivan years ago saying about this woman, and everybody said, oh, he was paranoid. But I think he was right. Don't agree with Vinnie Sullivan's politics, but he was right about this woman. And he was the first one to call her out, way before the falling out with Tommy Robinson, way before that.
To places like Sunderland, or I don't know, just kind of areas that have been kind of negatively affected by certain crimes. I will say that some of the stuff that came out, looking back, you know, wasn't necessarily what it said on the tin. So it was a strange time, you know, and some of it was real and some of it I think was him stretching and bending the truth a bit. And that's what I think he's gone on to do. I think that's where we are now with him. I'm sad. In a way, I think that him having, you know, a middle-class woman and a gay couple working for him was quite good, because we controlled, you know, the message, and we would talk to him about we shouldn't keep having protests.
You know? You snooty woman. You're looking down on a working class lad, are you? Female Nigel Farage, and you.
We should be doing journalism. We should be interviewing people. We should be, you know, become the media was our kind of mantra. But But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, it's a long mess, and it was a long time ago. But
at what point did the alarm bells start to ring and you realised it wasn't quite what you had perhaps been led to believe?
Definitely, as you know, we used to joke that he was like Imhotep from the Mummy, and we needed to put him back where he came from. We kind of made him famous again. He wasn't very famous when we first met him. We kind of reignited that, and it wasn't pleasant. But then, as time,
well, that's a lie, because he came in the spotlight. Then when he got arrested at Leeds, that wasn't through your doing, was it? You were just a camera person, weren't you? But this woman, and look at it, look at the face on it and the body language at all. Yeah. Again, another person trying to move themselves back up on the ladder on a guy who is everybody's putting the boot in. If you don't agree with him, rightly or wrong, what they do to him is terrible, and she is putting the boot in. Well, the bloke is down, and I think it's wrong. It's wrong, especially when she has been paid handsomely for her work in the past.
went on, and as the fame and the money started rolling in again, his behavior changed. You know, he thought he was better than us. He thought he didn't need us. He would have yes men around him. He preferred to hang out with them. We weren't doing drugs. I'm sure people he was hanging around with were. And the attitude just became very nasty.
I dare say you were taking drugs. I reckon you're lying. You coming from where you come from and the people you've hung around with before, you're telling me you haven't taken drugs before. I don't believe you. You liar.
He called me a snowflake. For just little things like calling me a lefty, and
would you challenge him? Was that why? Were you challenging some of his political views?
I would challenge him. I was particularly incensed.
So now we know the bottom line of it. Now, is it the situation he worked her out what she was in the end? She was an infiltrator. Here it said he called her a lefty. Maybe he worked out who she was in the end. Maybe she's got these grievances. She got outed.
After the Finsbury Park mosque attack, when he was interviewed by Sky News, and instead of focusing on the fact that a Muslim grandfather lost his life in that attack and taking any responsibility, Tommy was just in PR damage control mode, and I had a massive go at him. I remember sending him this like mad voice note, just like, what the hell are you doing? This is disgusting. You know, we need to take responsibility. Is this not what you accuse the Muslim community of, of blaming it on a lone wolf? It's nothing to do with us, and yet here you are doing that, and someone's lost his life.
So you're saying that now, but after that, for a good few months, you still worked for him. You still worked for him and done work for him. So if you felt strongly about it, why didn't you just walk away?
And yeah, he laughed at me and said, "Oh, the media are always the enemy. They're always the enemy. You've always got to remember that." And it just got to the point where, it just was not good. And then it all came to a head in 2018. We had an event in central London called the Day for Freedom. He invited a Muslim chap to come and give a speech. I think he then realized that his football lad contingent were going to attack this man if he got on stage. And so what did he do? He told me to go and disinvite the man who turned up, who then got attacked by Tommy's supporters. So I had to face these people.
But were you in secret talks with Ali Dawah and Hijab way before you accused him of that, and they just turned up? That was the truth, wasn't it? Why are you lying? Look at her. You could tell she's lying by her face. She's not a very good liar. It's unbelievable what people do, and I just don't get it. Yeah, why don't you just walk away from things? You claim your life has been made a misery by the followers and that, but you still do this. I smell bullshit.
I tried to protect the Muslim gentleman as much as I could. I got hit by one of the supporters in the process. And after that, Tommy blamed me because I'm obviously a lefty and set his fans on me. So I've had 6 years.
Okay, so you're a lefty. So what are you doing with Tommy Robinson if he was a lefty? Obviously, you didn't tell him that beforehand, did you? And he worked it out. You've dropped yourself in it already, love. Why are you lying? Why are you capitalising? I bet you got paid a couple of grand for this interview as well, didn't you?
Fans, stalking, harassing, death threats, and then some. So that's where we are.
Lucy, how did your friends and family react to the line of work you were doing? Because as you mentioned, up until this point, you were working with fairly liberal, progressive media types, and you had been a supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. What was the response from your loved ones when you said you were working with Tommy Robinson?
Oh, that's it. I've lost a lot of friends. There's a lot of people. There's weddings I didn't get invited to. There's children I'll never see grow up. I still have a very strange...
If your loved ones and everything were not letting you in weddings and all that, why did you carry on with that work then? God, that was your choice to go and work with him. So you blamed him for your friends and family sort of speaking to you. Your choice. Why don't people ever take responsibility for their own actions?
In relationship with extended members of my family. Just a few months ago, I had to move out of a place that I was living because the girls Googled me, and I had to do what's known as a struggle session, where I basically sat in front of them crying and apologising, but the damage was done. It causes problems with I can't work again, really, in the fashion industry. I think that's out the window.
Well,
so yeah,
you had a breakdown when people turned on you because you were working on both sides, wasn't you? Leaking out recordings of that. That's the only reason why you started crying. You're a little rat.
Very frustrated watching these riots from afar, because I do think that there was a chance, there was some wiggle room for some sensible conversations. And unfortunately, I am a product of Tommy's misinformation in a sense. You know, I have felt the wrath of misinformation. So I'm very concerned about.
No, you're not a product of that at all. It was your choice. If you didn't agree with it, why did you carry on working with him? Because you were getting paid for doing it, and it was your choice.
How this is going to affect the Muslim community, because we've seen he holds the big shiny red button from Spain, and he knows that he can press it, and he is pressing it, and it's just very concerning and very depressing, to be honest with you.
Tommy Robinson not in Spain, I think, just to correct one point, as
Cyprus.
Far as we're aware, yeah, in Cyprus. You talked about feeling ashamed now, looking back at some of the work that you had done, and you also mentioned making Tommy Robinson essentially famous. Do you feel responsibility in any way when you see the sort of scenes we've seen?
To be fair, you didn't make him famous. It was Hope not hate putting his face everywhere. Christ, he wasn't that famous because I didn't even know about the fucking EDL until I came across him when he was independent. Full of rubbish, woman. God, these people, these fucking lefties, they're going to go to hell with their lies. I'm telling you.
Across the country in recent days, does that feel like you have in any way played a part in enabling that to happen?
No, I feel like that was the scenes that we're seeing are the very thing that we were trying to stop by creating independent journalism, by giving people voices, by raising awareness of issues that we felt that the media weren't addressing maybe enough. And this is what we wanted to prevent. And I would say that Tommy's ego has led to it just evolving. And if you see the people around him now, his team, they are all fanning the flames of this. He's got this assistant now who I suppose is my replacement, called Danny Tomo, who was going...
Danny Tomo is not his assistant. Please do me a favour. She's jumped on this bandwagon now, hasn't she? The latest episode with Danny Tomo and the episode they're all going at Tommy Robinson, so she's jumping in the bandwagon for the Buddy Gray show with all these interviews. And they do get paid quite well for these interviews. I'm sure they get paid a couple of grand for the 10-minute interview she does.
On Telegram and saying that whole cities should be going up in flames and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I just consider this a great shame. It makes...
I'm not a great fan of Buddy Tomo. I don't think he ever said that. But here we go. You know, I just smell a bit of rat. Bit of a rat. Yeah. To be fair, smell a rat.
Me weep seeing the images that we've seen over the weekend, makes me sick, and it was preventable. I think it was preventable in many ways. The media maybe didn't help, but yeah, I don't know. It's very disgusting and shocking to see.
Okay, Lucy, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us this evening and speaking so candidly.
So, let's have a recap on that interview. So, you done an interview with Buddy Dower, a person who said he would marry his young daughter to an adult. So, you know what I mean? You ain't got no integrity, love. You should be ashamed of yourself, and karma will come to you with your lies and your shit. All because you want to get on the money gravy train again. You could get a job. You weren't that bigger icon when you was with him. You was just a camera person. Okay, I thought I would just share that for a little while, for a short interview. Have a good day, peeps. Try and keep peaceful today with all your things. We don't want that room. I think it's time to reflect and integrate with other people and start talking and start turning against the government, everyone with all different backgrounds, because that's what they plan to do for us, to fight and divide. Or we are stronger together. Take care. And people, ignore the race baiting and try think for yourselves and don't get into arguments with the race baiters and the bullshitters and the trolls on it. Okay. I'm already getting targeted already. So maybe my views have been a bit over the top, but I am there on here. We don't, on this channel, condone anybody with swastikas, which I've been talking about for years and years. People, stop your hypocrisy. Take care and be true to yourself.